Ladies and gentlemen, the real games begin tonight. Tonight, right now, Damon Dog, the real games begin. We are breaking down the Oregon matchup in 30 seconds. Don't you go anywhere. It's the AZ Wildcats pregame show.
Kevin, welcome in. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from PHNX HQ. I am Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas, and we are getting you ready for Arizona versus Oregon, the hypothetical Pac-12 championship game, Kevin. And you could say that it means more than any Pac-12 championship game has ever meant.
Damon, you could say that. You could say this is the true Pac-12 championship of all Pac-12 championships. I know the last one didn't quite go the way that we wanted it to, so I think that this one might be able to undo that one if you can undo it at all, Damon Dog. But like we started off the show, I'm excited. I feel like this is Arizona's first real test of the good old March Madness tournament here, Damon Dog. I think Oregon is a real tough squad, a really well coached, tough team that has some real talent. Unlike an Akron squad that Arizona was pretty much just able to sleepwalk through. You're not going to be able to sleepwalk through the Oregon Ducks, Damon Dog, and Dana Altman. So it's going to be a tough test for the Gritty Boys and the Arizona Wildcats, but it's one that I think they could get done, Damon Dog. How are you feeling coming into this game? What are the vibes? What are the vibes?
I feel pretty good, and we've talked about it lightly, Kevin. I don't think that this Oregon team is necessarily scary when you're looking at them on paper compared to this Arizona team. I really feel like this Arizona team is pretty much better in almost every facet of the game of basketball, Kevin. The main difference being that Dana Altman is a coach that has made it further than Tommy Lloyd has in the tournament. He's been here before, and he's consistent about getting his teams to peak at the right time when it comes to Oregon playing games in the NCAA tournament. So while we haven't seen an Oregon squad be as good as Arizona throughout the course of the season, I feel like I'm not going to say coaching advantage, because I do think Tommy Lloyd is, every bit as good of a coach as Dana Altman, but Dana Altman does have that experience factor that Tommy Lloyd doesn't have yet in his career. And I think it could be a big differentiator here in this game, Kevin. If Arizona was to lose or this game was to look more competitive than maybe we feel it should, I think it's going to be because of the head coach on that Oregon sideline tonight.
I totally agree with you, Damon. When you look at what Oregon has been doing recently, winning 9 of their last 10, and I was reading an article from an Oregon newspaper that was talking about, well, if that sounds familiar, if Oregon fans feel like that's a little bit of deja vu, it's because it is. They started their season with, I believe, 9 straight wins, including wins over Texas A&M, Alabama, and San Diego State in just 5 days, Damon Dog. So, this is an incredibly tough team in Oregon. I think it's like you said, when you look at their KenPom, it is underwhelming, right? But that does not tell the whole story of what this team is able to do on the basketball court. They have 3 really strong guards: Jackson Schausted, TJ Bamba, and Keyshawn Bartholomew, who all kind of play into Nate Biddle down low, and that's kind of going to be the focal point of this one, Damon Dog. But yeah, you want to talk about rounding into your best play at the best time. They've been one of the best defensive efficiency teams over the last month. And overall, I mean, Dana Altman. Can we talk a little bit about Dana Altman, Damon Dog?
I feel like that's what we've been talking about.
No, I know, but I want to get specific with Dana Altman's postseason track record, because you and I were talking off air a little bit pre-show about how impressive Tommy Lloyd's potential resume could be if he continues at this trajectory, right, Damon? Dana Altman in the postseason has been stellar. He has led Oregon to the tournament 9 times and has never lost in the first round. That continued this year. He's only lost in the second round, Damon Dog, once. That was last season when the Ducks were the number 11th seed, and he is 5-0 in second round games when Oregon is a number 8 seed or better. So statistically, Arizona is up against some crazy trends in this one. But that I say all that to illustrate just how talented of a coach Dana Altman is and how special of a tete-a-tete this game is going to be between him and Tommy Lloyd.
Yeah, he certainly has been here before, and is just a guy who just proves year in and year out how high level of a coach he is. Because I don't think that, save for a few years here and there, Oregon isn't necessarily like the most talent rich team you'll ever see. And I'm not. That's not to say that they don't get high recruits every now and again, but they're typically not bringing in like multiple 5 stars every year. It's more of a development type of program, and I think that that's something that's been made to be consistent, Kevin. I have here like this, you could argue this well and truly is for like all the Pac-12 marbles here, because in the last 11 years of the Pac-12 tournament championship, Oregon has 4 championships and Arizona has 5. UCLA, has 1. And Oregon State also has 1. So congrats to UCLA. They tied Oregon State in Pac-12 tournament titles in the last decade or so of Pac-12 play. But Oregon and Arizona were the 2 teams that were at the top of the Pac-12 year in and year out. And I do think that like maybe Oregon overperformed in these Pac-12 tournament environments, Kevin. But that just goes to show even more how much Dana Altman gets his team playing their best basketball at the right time of the year into the tournament, right? And so Dana Altman is just he's a great coach, and I think he's the biggest X factor in this game when it comes to what Oregon is going to want to do, and is his game plan up to snuff? Is it going to be good enough to catch Tommy Lloyd and Arizona off guard, or maybe just make them uncomfortable? Get them in more half court sets, slow them down a little bit. Like I do think Dana Altman is going to switch up what Arizona sees look wise defensively and make things really uncomfortable on the Cats in that regard. So expect some I feel like versatile defenses from Oregon tonight.
I think that's very well said, Damon, because when you look at what Coach is saying, Coach Dana Altman is saying coming into this matchup, he's talking about how Oregon has to focus on getting a body on Arizona's guys. They have to be physical with Arizona. They have to throw Arizona off of their game, which is physicality, right?
Yeah.
Arizona's game is based in that physical, kind of strength, strength mixed with finesse kind of a game, right? And I think that this is not actually going to resemble the Pac-12 games of old. I think this is actually going to look more like a Big 12 game than it is a Pac-12 game, Damon Dog. I mean, for those more gambling inclined folks out there, I promise is actually going to be statistically inclined as well. But Oregon is a huge team to the under over the last month or so.
Okay.
But I think that also speaks to their defensive focus. They've been, like I said, one of the most efficient defensive teams over the last month, and they've also been, putting that out on the score sheet as well. So I feel like this is going to be a physical battle, and like Fanatics Podcast in the chat said as well, Oregon's always super tough, or Arizona wins by 15. But I think this is going to be the super tough version of Oregon, right? This is a tournament game. They're going to have to play through a center, so it's going to be a paint battle in a way as well, because I think Arizona can match up with Oregon's guards, and I think it's going to come down to, can Biddle really carry the load for Oregon, or can Arizona's bigs kind of suppress that? And I think Arizona's bigs should be able to suppress that, but it's going to be tough. Oregon's talented, and they're damn good.
I love that idea of a paint battle, Kevin, as an Arizona fan, because I think that it gives Arizona the best opportunity to win this game. I feel like when the Cats get in paint battles with teams, they typically come out on top, and that's even playing Texas Tech twice in 2 Ws, right? Where Conference Player of the Year, JT Toppin, he's been unstoppable all year. I heard, some Texas Tech fans talking about how that was, granted, he looked a little bit off from a, physicality standpoint, like he was sick.
Yeah, he was ill.
But it was the worst he'd looked all season. And then, in a different, in the earlier game that season, the front court matchup was won by Arizona as well. So even when they go up against high level front court players, I do think that Arizona can outmatch those guys at times. And, I think that if it's going to come down to mano y mano, bigs versus bigs, I like Arizona's kind of culmination of players there to, maybe just get Nate Biddle a little bit tired, Kevin. Like big men, it's hard for them to stay energized, or rested the entire game. And I think that is a big asset of Arizona's, that they have 2 guys they feel very comfortable playing heavy minutes, right? So you have a Tobe Awaka and a Henry Vasar you can throw in. And hopefully I think Tommy's rotations, he's going to keep those guys fresh and and really just, keep Biddle working the entire game, maybe get him in some foul trouble, because if Biddle gets in foul trouble, I think that could spell some big trouble for Oregon here.
Not a one-to-one comparison, but just kind of illustrative of what you were just saying. I don't know if people were watching the Baylor-Duke game earlier, doing a little bit of scouting possibly.
I don't even want to talk about it.
But no, I'm just talking about Norchad Omier picking up his third foul. I believe it was in that first half. And as soon as he picked up that third foul, the game was over.
That's Norchad Omier ball.
It is Norchad Omier ball. Big time Norchad Omier ball. I'm glad we both thought that, but no, that's exactly what your point is though, right? If Biddle gets in foul trouble, this game looks completely different. So I think it does fall on Arizona's bigs to challenge him, and that also extends to the guards, right? To win your matchup, make Oregon play through Biddle, make Biddle beat you by himself, because I don't think he can, right? And knocking on wood, whatever, but Damon, I'm confident in the Arizona Wildcats in this one. I think it's going to be a very tough one. We have a tip-off here in about 17 minutes. How are you feeling in terms of confidence level that Arizona's going to be able to pull this one out?
I feel pretty good, Kevin, and I don't, maybe a little bit more confident than I should, and I have been all week. I mean, I think the second that the game tips off, I'm going to be, shaking. But as of right now and in the lead up, I felt pretty good about this team and their ability to win this basketball game. It's probably pretty similar to how I felt about the Dayton game last year, where it's like, yeah, could Arizona lose this game? Absolutely. But should they? No. Will they? Probably not. And I do think that, I know it's a 4-5. It's a little bit closer than, the seeding of last year's matchup. But I do really think that, the Big Ten isn't as good as the Big 12. Arizona's faced tougher competition all year. They've been better than Oregon for majority of the year as well, other than non-conference play. I like Arizona to come out on top today. I don't know by how much. I could see it being kind of a blowout. I could see it being a close game, but I do think the Cats get the job done. What about you, Kevin?
I think the Cats get the job done. I think Arizona wins by about 5-7. Kind of that late, you're up by 3, up by 4, and then the last couple buckets put it away in that sense. But I think it's going to be tough, and I think it's going to be close throughout. One thing I wanted to mention that I think we'd be remiss to not mention is that their 3 guards that we mentioned, Shalstead, Bamba, and Bartholomew, all average in the double digits. And I think that I saw a stat where all of Oregon's starters or top 6 minute getters all shoot a certain amount from the free throw line. So their touch is all good on the Oregon side as well. And I say that to say that Caleb Love was asked what is going to be key to defeating Oregon. And he said kind of staying locked in. They run a lot of intricate screening sets. And I think that what I took from that is I thought back to players like Carter Bryant, Trey Townsend, and even KJ Lewis to an extent in a different way, because KJ Lewis takes chances on defense, right? He doesn't really lose his man ever, but sometimes he will take a chance on a steal and put himself out of position, but he's so good defensively he can get back to that position, right? But I'm talking mostly to Carter Bryant and Trey Townsend. They have to stay locked in. Arizona's wings have to stay locked in on these screening actions, because I think we've seen over the course of the last couple months, there have been times where Arizona's wings and guards either lose track of their man in transition or, they mess up a switch or something, Damon, and then there's an open corner 3 for the other team or an open wing 3 for the other team. And you cannot have that against a team like Oregon, because Dana Altman will torch you if you have those kind of things, Damon. So I feel like if Arizona comes focused, if Arizona comes locked in, especially on the defensive end, the offense will sort itself out, I think. I think it's going to be all on the defensive end of the ball, Damon.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Kevin, and I do think that Arizona's offense has been playing its best basketball of probably the entire season at the right time, right? It's the defense that's maybe shown a little bit of flashes of faltering recently, taking a step back in these KenPom defensive net ratings rankings here, but the offense only going up. So, if things trend the way that they've been trending, I expect the offense to show up in a big way here. And as you say, it could be down to the defense whether or not Arizona, can get the job done in this one here. But yeah, go ahead.
Just to go back to the screening comment I had for anyone, again, I keep referencing earlier games today, but sometimes when you watch these other March Madness games, you get a feel for what mistakes cost teams in the tournament, right? You just get reminded if you're watching that Utah, damn, that UConn Florida game from earlier today, Damon. The slips off of the screens, the Florida's bigs were able to get countless dunks, open dunks from screen and rolls. And UConn is one of the best coached teams in the country, no matter how you feel about Danny Hurley. So for them to lose track of their guy on a simple screen and roll slip, right? It can happen to some of your best coach teams in the nation. So if you're Arizona, you have to stay locked in with a team like Oregon that runs so many screens, runs so many, plays where Arizona's a big switching team. Tommy Lloyd's a big pro style defense guy. So if you want to switch everything, you have to be locked in like that, Damon. So I think Arizona cannot cost itself on the defensive end because its offense, respectfully, is not good enough to mask all of, a bunch of defensive errors, especially in the tournament. It is maybe in conference play, maybe in non-conference play. I mean, 4-5 in non-conference play. But you get my point, right? Like, yeah. I think if you're Arizona, you have to come locked in defensively, and you have to show Oregon in these first 10 minutes. First 10 minutes of tournament games are so important that this is Arizona's court, and it's on Oregon to take it from Arizona. And it's not going to be a back and forth. It's going to be you chasing us the whole game.
Another aspect there that you bring up, Kevin, saying, that this is Arizona's court, going to be interesting to see how many Oregon fans are in the crowd, right?
Indeed.
Because it is in Seattle, in Oregon, I'm sure they have a decent alumni base in Seattle, given that it's the biggest city in the Pacific Northwest. So, I know Arizona fans travel and they travel well, and it's on the West Coast. So, Arizona fans it's, high stakes games. Like, I'm sure that there will be a big presence out there, but it's obviously a lot easier for Oregon fans to get to this game. So, I wonder if Oregon, starts going on a little bit of a run or putting the pressure on Arizona, what will the crowd impact be? Truly, is it going to be loud in there for big Oregon moments? I don't know. We're going to find out when it comes to that, Kevin. But
that's a good point. And will the non-partial Washington fans, who will they pick? If you're just
they're rooting for us.
If you're just a UW fan in the
Zach
arena,
Bossy, who went to ASU, messages me this morning and says, "Go Cats!" in my Slack messages.
Wow.
Yeah,
it runs that deep.
He's a noted, he's from Seattle, Washington fan growing up. Went to ASU, but he cares more about Arizona taking out Oregon here than he does about the Arizona ASU rivalry of his own school. So I think that answers the question for you right there, Kevin.
It definitely does.
I don't think Washington fans love Arizona, but they also
just hate Oregon more.
They're the ones that took our coach. So I don't know that they're
no.
They hold all these harbor all these horrible feelings.
Yeah.
Really, it would just be Arizona fan pushback on Twitter that would make them, maybe dislike our fan base, but they deserve that. So,
Damon, I want to throw something at you real quick.
Let's do it.
Carter, MF, and Bryant.
The man,
the myth, the wise child himself. How are we feeling about him in this matchup? I feel as though, let me double check myself really fast. This is great podcasting, but I feel as though Oregon isn't the biggest team from a wings perspective.
Yeah.
And I feel as though Carter Bryant might take another game to eat here. I know he ate against Akron, and that was simply Akron. And we were talking about this with Saul on our postgame show about how you can't really take too much from any individual performance against a team like Akron because you're supposed to ball out.
And also,
you know what I mean?
Carter is the type of prospect, right, where Akron hasn't seen a player as athletic as Carter Bryant all season. So when he gets those 3 massive blocks in that game, right, Akron hasn't played a team all season where a guy is even physically capable of making those blocks. So, yeah, against a team like Oregon where they're maybe a little bit more, they've seen a little bit more athleticism in the Big Ten. Granted, not even close to the athleticism you see in the Big 12. There's a reason guys like Hunter Dickinson make a name for themselves in the Big Ten consistently. But yeah, here's the other thing, Kevin. Illinois lost today. I don't know what the score. I don't know what this. Yes, that Kylan Boswell sucks.
It wasn't his fault,
home,
though.
buddy.
It wasn't his fault. That's a fact. He
did have
sorry
a good
about
game.
it, chat. He was balling today.
This is true. And then you have New Mexico up 6 right now, and Michigan State could be turning out to be a pretty bad day for the Big Ten here, Kevin. The
wheels were going to fall off
hope
eventually, but they started out really hot in the tournament. But the wheels were bound to fall off.
New Mexico
eventually.
up 9 now.
Oh yeah, I have that as well. Oh, Damon, while we're on the topic of off topic, can I bring to you something crazy? I don't know if I know you saw it in the chat, but I don't know if you saw any of it on the TV screens behind me. The Maryland buzzer beater that just happened.
No, I didn't get to watch
Maryland was they were winning the game. Colorado hits a crazy shot with 3.6 left to go, up 71-70, right? Derek Queen buzzer beater W for Maryland, the Crab 5, and this is where it gets crazy. I had a parlay of Maryland money line in the over 122.5. Remember that number, 122.5. I need 143 points, Damon. The final score, 71-72.
Great podcasting there, Kevin. Everybody wanted to know what was going on in his betting world.
Hey, the buzzer beater covered for me by 1 point. I'm just saying.
Very
we
cool,
were on the
man.
topic of off topic, and I had to mention that while I had the chance to, Damon Dog.
The people were on the edge of their seats.
Maybe someone else had a similar situation. You never know.
To hear you say what was going on your betting slips, brother. Do you have any bets on this game? Anything relevant to the game at hand?
I was just gonna say we can talk the relevant bets if you want to talk the relevant bets.
Guy's got
as well.
more hyped about Maryland winning than he has about Arizona playing a basketball game.
Well, they haven't tipped off yet, Damon. I don't have much to get hype about right now. You know what I mean? The game has not yet tipped off. That game had a buzzer beater, so I got hype. But my point is, I have Arizona -3.5 and the over 151.5, which I know kind of goes against the defensive thing I was talking about earlier. But I feel like both of these teams have been kind of focusing on the defensive end. I think that maybe Caleb Love could get going against another Oregon team. I remember that game that Caleb Love had, I think last year, maybe even kind of going off against Oregon. I feel like we could have similar vibes to that, Damon Dog. And I think the over 151.5 it's a high number, but not a crazy high number, Damon.
I got a quick update for you, Kevin. We do have a starting 5 out. It is the same starting 5 as last game, despite Anthony Orso and his, kind of I'd say he looked a little bit out of place.
Deer in the headlights.
Yeah, against Akron, which is maybe hopefully, having a little bit better of a second half. He's feeling a little bit more comfortable now, but I think that there could have been some motion for KJ Lewis to join the starting lineup here. But I expect it much of the same. I think Tommy likes to keep it consistent with the rotation, and KJ likely, like all games, will be pretty much at the scorer's table before 2 possessions into the game. So
yeah, we were talking about the screening and the switching. You start with ADO. We know exactly how that's gonna go.
Yep.
Hunt. Found ADO.
Yeah, I'm scared for like a TJ Bamba on ADO. I think Arizona needs to try to minimize that matchup as much as possible, Kevin, because ADO is just frankly like TJ Bamba is a big guard with a huge frame. Like if he gets ADO one-on-one and is able to kind of take him into the post or drive on him, I think that's going to be light work for Oregon. And I've mentioned before, Kevin, like TJ Bamba hasn't had a phenomenal year, hasn't had a great tournament even thus far, but I kind of expect him to be a player that, could potentially give Arizona some trouble here. So we'll see, a guy that Arizona's played before, and you might remember him from, his Washington State days. But, they have Shellstad, they have, Nate Biddle, but I think TJ Bamba is maybe one of those X Factor type players that could potentially give Arizona some problems, just because I think guys that put the ball on the floor always tend to give Arizona a little bit of issues, Kevin.
Yeah, guys that can create their own shot off the dribble. They don't need some sort of screen action to get their shot off. They do give Arizona trouble at times, Damon. I think that is an apt observation you've made. That's the word I was looking for there, Damon. But yeah, I think if Arizona can make the guards of Oregon feel uncomfortable and force them, like I said earlier, to play through their bigs, play through Supreme Cook, play through Nate Biddle. I think Arizona actually has a higher % chance of winning this game.
Yeah.
If they make Oregon play through their best player, which I know sounds crazy, but I think if you let Oregon's guards get going in this matchup, we know how March Madness can be. You don't want one of these guys going for 25 on for whatever odd reason, and you want to make the big man beat you with twos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that is Arizona's route to victory in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then I'm just looking real quick. What's going to be the other matchup here for a guy like Trey Townsend? Like what's the size matchup for Oregon's squad? I would love to find out here, because I do think that kind of matters, right? Like if they have kind of a bigger 4, I think that you could see a little bit less Trey Townsend, a little bit more Carter Bryant in this game as well, because ADO and Trey Townsend have, like, let's face it, it's kind of been matchup dependent for a little bit here. And Trey Townsend had a great game 1. Let's see if he can continue it in game 2 and continue to be, the March Madness god that we've come to know and love, Kevin.
The March Man, Mr. March, Tourney Trey, Tournament Time Townsend, whatever you want to call him. I think we'll probably see him on a mix of Bamba and Evans. Kwame Evans, a 6'9", 220 sophomore, playing the 4 in the depth chart over the last 5 games for the Ducks. You might even see him on, maybe even a Supreme Cook if he gets into the game at all. He doesn't really get into the game very often, but if he does, expect Trey Townsend to get him in there. I just like saying Supreme Cook, Damon. I'm sorry about it. But yeah, I think Trey Townsend, I expect him to...
The more I hear Supreme Cook, the more I'm like, kind of overrated, I think, in terms of names.
It's pretty dope. Anyway,
Cook is a normal last name. Supreme is a cool name.
Supreme is, I was about to say, you can't even say, that's not even a name.
If he was a guard, I feel like it'd be cooler.
Oh, it'd be way cooler if he was like a small, undersized guard.
If he was a ball handler, yeah.
Like one of the dribble and lean back kind of guys. Oh my God. I could see a Supreme Cook playing for before Patino got there, like a St. John's. You know what I mean? Like a point guard of St. John's or a Georgetown.
He sounds like a New York guy.
Yeah, like a Big East point guard, Supreme Cook. Supreme Pizza Cook, says our guy AZ Cats G. Shout out to AZ
Nickname
Cats
God.
G. Yeah, nickname machine in the chat, AZ Cats G. Nickname generator. The G stands for generator.
Oregon's other forward is going to be Brandon Angel, who's a 6'8" guy.
Sick name too.
Was a borderline top 100 recruit. On 24/7, went to Stanford out of high school, had offers from Cal, Boston, Cal State, Dartmouth. Not a huge recruit, so maybe a little bit less athletic of a guy, because I tend to think that with recruiting, the guys who show you the top of the line athleticism are the guys that are at the top of the recruiting rankings. That seems to be, one of the bigger indicators. So hopefully, and we'll come to find out, I haven't watched a whole lot of Brandon Angel ball, admittedly, but how that matchup looks for Trey Townsend, because I do feel like they go to Trey Townsend early too. It's like with ADO, it's not as much as let's see what he has. I feel like with Trey Townsend, it's always what kind of game is this going to be for Trey? Let's throw it down to him in the post and see what he's got early, and then he either gets blocked out of bounds or puts up a beautiful hook on somebody and it gets the soft touch in, and it's a Trey day. But
it is indeed a Trey day.
Hopefully
will see,
it's
Kevin. A Trey day. The game is about to tip off here momentarily, Damon Dog. I do believe we are quickly encroaching upon 6:40 Mountain Standard Time, Damon. So do you got anything else for us?
No, I'm just pumped up. I'm ready to go. This game means everything, Kevin. And as soon as it starts, I'm going to get a little bit more nervous here. If you are in the chat, please drop a like on this video. We thank you so much for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. And hopefully, Kevin, we're talking about Arizona's March Madness journey continuing on the postgame show. Keep it locked with our coverage at PHNX_Wildcats. We're going to be tweeting from the account all game long. Follow Kevin at KevoPost. That's KEVOPOSTS. Follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. And we will be live 15 minutes post-game, final buzzer, hopefully talking about an Arizona Wildcats W, Kevin. Get hyped, get ready to go. It is the second round of the March Madness NCAA tournament. Arizona versus Oregon, 6:40 tip. Be there. And I guess go Cats, Kevin. Peace out.
Bear down, go Cats. Let's get this W.
Let's do it.
Let's go to the Sweet 16. Wait, buzzer beater from AZ Cats G. Just like Maryland. BTFD, bear down. Good seeing you guys. Hopefully we will see you in the post-game show, AZ Cats G. But that is a wrap on the pregame show. Let's go, boys. Bear down, go Cats. Let's get this W.
We all silly like the mayor.